IELTS Speaking Cue Card 2020 describe something which you borrowed was useful. You should say what it is when you borrowed, who you borrowed from, and explain why it was useful. Well, this candidate task card reminds me of several occasions when I had to borrow something useful and important from others. I would, however, go with my first instinct and talk about the event that came first in my mind. It was a recent event when I borrowed a thermometer from a neighbor. Though a thermometer is a small tool and is required only a few times, in particular when someone suffers from fever, it is quite useful in my opinion. It was almost midnight and all of a sudden my younger brother, Sam, started feeling ill. He was complaining about feeling very cold, and that was a symptom of getting caught by the seasonal flu. I rang one of my doctor friends and he told me not to worry too much unless Sam's body temperature was really high. He also advised me some medicines and assured me that he would visit our home in case things get worse. It was at the beginning of the last month and my younger brother suffered from the fever for about 5 days. Luckily he recovered sooner than many others I know about who were caught by the same viral flu. Speaking of, that night, after I finished talking to my doctor friend, Rick, I searched for the thermometer to check Sam's temperature. I assumed we would have at least 2 thermometers at our house, one in my desk and another one is in the fast aid box that my father had. To my surprise, I could not find a single one. I searched everywhere and after 30 minutes of ceaseless searching, I quit and decided to borrow it from Paula, who is one of our closest neighbors. I called her and she was luckily awake. I explained her Sam's condition and that I needed to borrow a thermometer from her. In 10 minutes she rushed to our house with the thermometer and talked to Sam for a couple of minutes. She also brought some vitamin C enriched fruits with her and advised me to stay awake for a couple of hours to accompany Sam. She also talked with my parents and after an hour she left. She is still a caring and tender-hearted woman who we consider our family friend. The thermometer I borrowed from Paula was really needed at that time. We had to check Sam's body temperature in every 30 minutes. In the next morning, I bought 3 thermometers and gave my father one to keep it in his fast aid box. I returned Paula's thermometer after a couple of days and thanked her for her support and care for us. IELTS Speaking Part 3 Follow-up questions. 1. What do Indian people usually borrow? Indian people usually borrow many things depending on their need. Some people borrow money, and some borrow gadgets. Students borrow notes. They borrow things they don't have and need only for a short time. 2. Does borrowing things make people uncomfortable? It depends on the person. Borrowing makes people uncomfortable only if they're borrowing from a person they don't know well. When I borrowed the dress from my friend, I did not feel uncomfortable because I knew her well. But if you borrow something and spoil the thing before returning, then certainly it is very embarrassing situation. 3. What to do if you don't want to lend something to others? If I don't want to lend something, I just say sorry to the person and tell him why I don't want to lend that thing. Sometimes the thing is very precious to you and you don't want to share it. It is okay not to lend that thing. 4. Why do people dislike lending valuable items? People dislike lending valuable items because they fear that the thing may be lost or damaged by the borrower. 5. What would you do if your friends didn't give back what they borrowed from you? I would ask the thing back from them if they don't return the thing. Sometimes the person may have just forgotten to return for no reason. I don't think it is wrong or embarrassing to ask for your own thing to be returned. 6. Why do some people borrow things instead of buying them? Some people borrow things because they may not be able to afford buying those things, or perhaps they would not need to use those things more than once. So, instead of buying, some people prefer borrowing such things.